So what we're going to do today is something a little different. We're going to take a piece of fiction, but we're going to treat it like a real-life case study, almost like an anthropological field report. The whole point here is to really dig in and deconstruct this world, a world that's been built from the ground up to have absolutely no suffering. How does that even work? What holds it all together? Let's find out.
And it all starts with this line: a gentle breeze drifts through swirling colored clouds. Right from the get-go, you get this incredible sense of peace, of tranquility. And you've got to understand, this isn't just pretty writing. It's not just setting the scene. This is the core idea of the entire world we're about to dive into, a society built on total, absolute serenity.
So, here's the big question, the thought experiment we're all joining in on. What if you could have a world with no suffering at all? No concept of owning things, no possessions, not even any illness. It's asking us to just toss out everything we think we know about how a society has to work. Forget conflict, forget ownership, forget sickness. Let's really see what a world like that might actually look like.
All right, so to really get our heads around a society like this, we've got to start with the basics, right? The fundamentals, the land, and the people who live on it. So let's paint a picture. Where are we, and who are these people?
I mean, just listen to these place names. Butterfly Peaks, Rivers of Grace, and fragrant melon gardens. It literally sounds like poetry. We're not talking about a world of concrete jungles or endless suburbs here. This is a place where everything is named to highlight its natural beauty. And that's key. This environment isn't just a backdrop. It's the very foundation of their entire way of life.
And you might think a landscape this vast would be teeming with people, but no. There are only about 300 of them in total. Just 300 individuals who are called celestials in the story. And that small number, that intimate scale, is absolutely crucial. It's what makes their super interconnected, community-first way of life even possible.
And even with just 300 people, they're not all just one big blob. They're actually organized into smaller, distinct communities. You can see here, for example, at Butterfly Peak, there are 39 celestials living there. Over at Fengzi Plain, there are more than 200. So even in this perfect-seeming world, there's a real, clear social structure.
Okay, so we've got the lay of the land. Now let's get into the good stuff. How do they actually live? What does a normal day even look like for one of these celestials? I mean, in a world where there's no work as we know it, what do they do all day?
We get this really lovely little glimpse into their life through a celestial named Jiaoyu. Think about how your day starts. Alarm clock, maybe. A commute? Well, her day starts with just playfully teasing and laughing with her friends in a garden. That's it. It tells you everything, right? Their social connections, their friendships, are literally the first thing they experience each day.
And this is a perfect example of their whole attitude towards what we'd call work. They have to feed the silkworms, right? But it's not a chore. It's this beautiful, mindful cycle. Check it out. They pick the leaves, they feed the worms, they sift the trays, and then they use the worm droppings to fertilize the flowers. Nothing is wasted. It's a perfect closed loop. It's all part of one harmonious process. So, living in harmony with nature? Check. But what about their culture? You know, what's important to them? What do they value? This is where things get really interesting, because we start to see a society that finds meaning in, well, not in big holidays or major life milestones, but just in the here and now.
Just think about this for a second. What's the biggest party of the year for them? It's not for some big historical event or religious holiday. Nope. They throw a huge festival because the melons are ripe. I mean, how amazing is that? It just shows this incredible ability to find pure joy and meaning in the simplest things, in the natural rhythms of the world.
But okay, this melon festival isn't just about the melons. It becomes the setting for something much bigger. A celestial named Mita shows up, and the text says she has come with a purpose. She's described as being in her season of arousal, and when she begins to dance, it kicks off this very unique, very specific ritual for finding a partner. And this is where that whole philosophy we talked about, no possession, no ownership, really comes into play. If you don't have property, how do you attract a partner? It's not about your status or how much stuff you have. Instead, it becomes a contest of art, a contest of intellect. It's all about emotional connection. Potential partners have to win her over with poetry.
So Maida kicks off the whole thing with her poetic challenge, a zither without strings, how hard it is to find its harmony. Wow, I mean, that's not a simple riddle. It's this deep, personal metaphor. She's not just asking for a nice rhyme. She's basically saying, who here can understand me on a level beyond words? Who can hear the music I'm making even when there are no strings to play? It's a profound challenge.
And the potential partners, they respond in kind, with their own powerful, beautiful imagery. You see a reply here that talks about swans and rainbows and a celestial youth. It's a conversation, but it's happening entirely through art. They're expressing their interest, their compatibility, all through these poetic verses.
So what is the big idea that lets all of this happen? Well, one of the elders, a celestial named Hesong, he just lays it all out. He says, look, in the human world, there's so much suffering. And the reason for it, the fault, is possession and occupation. Owning things and occupying things. He says, we celestials, we just can't go down that road. And that, right there, is the central rule that makes their entire world tick.
Okay, so if you take that core idea, rejecting possession, and you follow it to its logical conclusion, you end up at what is probably the most radical, most different part of their society, their approach to sex and relationships. Now, we're going to look at this not to be sensational, but to really understand how their biology and their philosophy come together.
First things first, we have to understand the biology here, which is different from ours. The text is really specific about this. Celestial women have a sexual cycle that happens every 3 months, so quarterly, not monthly. And when that cycle peaks, it results in this period of incredibly intense arousal, something that's described as a powerful, almost overwhelming biological need.
The story uses this really powerful image to describe it. It's like a reservoir that fills up over those 3 months. So their arousal isn't just a passing feeling, it's this force of nature that's been building and building. And when it's time for that release, the book says it's like a sluice gate opening, a flood, something that's really beyond the control of any one person.
So you have this intense biological need on one hand, and this core philosophy of no possession on the other. What do? Well, the community's solution is logical from their point of view. Mita's need is just too immense for one person to handle. So, with the guidance of an elder, the community helps find a solution that involves more than one partner. And for them, this isn't a scandal or a moral issue. It's just a natural need being met. There's no jealousy, no ownership, no shame. All right, let's take a step back and look at the big picture here. We've seen their world, how they spend their days, their art, their rituals, and even their unique biology. So what does this whole glimpse into their world really show us?
It really boils down to these 4 big ideas that are all tied together. You've got no self and no possession, which get rid of things like jealousy and conflict. Then there's accord with nature, which shapes everything from their work to how they understand their own bodies. And finally, full enjoyment of the present. That's why they throw a party for ripe melons. This is basically the operating system for their entire society.
And in the end, the point of this story isn't to say, hey, everyone should live like this. It's not a blueprint for utopia. It's more like a mirror. It's a thought experiment. It's designed to be so radically different from our world that it forces us to turn around and look at ourselves and to question all the things we just assume are normal. Things like ownership, jealousy, even our ideas of what's natural. And that's really where this whole journey ends, right where the original text does, with a question that's pointed directly back at us. After seeing this world, after seeing people find profound joy in something as simple as ripe melons, or find partners through poetry, we're not supposed to want to become them. The real question is, how can we take this glimpse, this idea of a different way of being, and use it to maybe refine the structure of our own lives?